All right, you can see already, can't you? It's going to be a big night for the election campaign. Joining me now, of course, we've got the A-team, our political editor, Andrew Clennell. Great to have you in person as well.
Yes.
Hey, we've talked about these forums and how they can really set the tone, not just for a couple of weeks of a campaign, but for an entire campaign. You've got Peter Dutton tonight wanting to use this as a reset moment to show his sort of humanity with an audience. And the Prime Minister too, I mean, he's in a vexed position. He's governed the country. People in this period of time are doing it pretty tough. I think people will want to see him take a little bit of responsibility for where things are at.
I don't think he'll be doing that. And I think if he does that, he admits fault and he's way behind. So he has to find a way to empathise but not admit fault. And that is very difficult for him. Well, this is those examples you showed, Peter, pretty much uniformly the opposition leader won this forum. And after the cost of living crisis we've had, I expect that to be happening tonight. The pressure's on Peter Dutton to make this a reset. He should win this. Remember, Anthony Albanese had a massive slip at the start of the last campaign. Labor strategist said when he couldn't name the unemployment rate to me that after the election that was worth 2%. Well, I reckon this Donald Trump situation and the work from home policy have cost Peter Dutton 2%. Now, Albanese was able to have a good performance in the forum. He then had COVID and was off for a week. But Peter Dutton has a good performance tonight. He can turn things around. He needs to get the subject off work from home, off Trump, give answers to them, but kick them out of the way, get in on Labor's record, but most importantly of all, because we've seen him bag Labor for 3 years, show us that he's a viable alternative Prime Minister. That's the test tonight, but I still think it's advantage Dutton as we go into this because of the last 3 years and because he's the opposition leader. And frankly, when I'm watching tonight, I've already heard the lines from Albanese. I could rehearse them for you. We started inflation with a 6, it went to a 2, etc., etc. Peter Dutton, I think he'll come with something different, and I'm intrigued to see how Dutton performs tonight.
Yeah, I'm going through my mind. I don't think we were in opposition in 2010, obviously, but I don't think that Tony Abbott beat Julia Gillard in the People's Forums. He certainly did as opposition leader against Kevin Rudd, but I mean, Labor were a carcass by then, so it's a little bit different. How do you think, in a personal sense, both of these men are going to connect with a room full of people from Western Sydney?
Well, now that you say that, it's about $1 that Anthony Albanese is going to mention growing up in Housing Commission, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And Peter Dutton's going to mention, you know, I started as a cop, I started my own business, etc., etc. So that's the way to do it. Bring their personal stories. We've heard them 100 times, but the audience hasn't, that's for sure, including the television audience. I think, obviously, again, people have heard Albanese's before. This is where Dutton has an advantage. He has an advantage to come out there, perform well. He's got to find that balance between connecting with the audience and the television audience and still attacking Anthony Albanese. But he's got an opportunity to really introduce himself to the Australian people. A lot of people just would not know a lot about it.
Also pretty hard, I think, here with this audience for the Prime Minister to blame Peter Dutton when he's been the PM for 3 years and Dutton's been in opposition. Yeah,
I mean, look, Albanese's strategy here is to say we've got a choice. They've had this work at home policy, they had to dump it. He's going to use terms like Americanisation of the health system. Well, we know that's a bit dishonest, right? Because essentially Peter Dutton is not promising to Americanise the health system. But you saw in the rally on Sunday that Albanese held that he and the Treasurer kept giving these Trump-type examples. They kept using terms like Americanisation of the health system, Americanisation of wages, etc., etc. So I expect that from Albanese at the start. Now, what Dutton needs to do is call that out immediately and say, and actually, he should bag Donald Trump. That would be a good trump card, so to speak, for him tonight. I think he needs to take a couple of risks, including with his base. That's one of them, because he believes that Anthony Albanese has been quite dishonest in this campaign, and he needs to take that on.
What about these reports today? Not only has he got a banned former lobbyist in his inner sanctum, this is the Prime Minister, but he's also got his old mate Daniel Andrews as one of his key strategists. Yeah,
well, I know for a fact that he hasn't been preparing with him in the direct lead-up, but last Wednesday they had a meeting in which the debate was discussed, and Andrews, who was a former staffer with him, I think, in Canberra,
I think they shared a house at some
that time, Perhaps Albanese was an MP, he was a staffer. I don't know. They've known each other for years, where he helped him prepare. Obviously, Andrews has been in a lot of these people's forum situations. But when Peter Dutton's trying to win votes in Victoria, it wasn't very welcome that became public, I think. So it hasn't been a long-standing thing. It was a meeting last week. Since then, Albanese's been rehearsing with his staffers, as I understand it.
I got a tip up from a Labor contact of mine about 3 or 4 weeks ago to say there was some talk that Andrews would join him on the plane, but that the strategist thought that was a bridge too far. Yeah,
I could never see that happening, and Mark Butler's joined him, who's a close ally from the left. One of the intriguing things, I don't know, I've been on the Dutton plane, but the media plane's separate. I don't know if he has an MP with him. Someone said James McGrath. I feel like James Patterson, who's sitting behind us, is the most trusted colleague of Peter Dutton's, and he would have been the perfect sort of consigliere on the plane with Dutton, but instead he's the campaign spokesman. So I wonder if he would have been better off.
Too, so
it's tough. I mean, he's valuable in both roles, but that could have been a play he could have made, because I think he needs that assurance of an MP really trusts a front bencher behind him at the moment.
And look, I've been on campaigns, obviously, where you've had a colleague on the plane, and the purpose of that, so people at home can follow, is that you can get a message, colleague from colleague. They're not passing it through staffers if they can't get to the leader.
Yeah.
Sometimes they want to sort of blow someone's wig off, and you can only do that from one MP to another. Hey, just quickly, all this talk around today, two-part talk. One, that Penny Wong's in the retirement lounge, and then when asked about this, the Deputy Prime Minister, Richard Marles, would not rule out putting his hand up for her portfolio, making it clear then that he doesn't want defence, at the same time that Labor's saying these are uncertain times.
I believe Penny Wong will be in the Parliament as long as Anthony Albanese is in the Parliament. So make of that what you will when people talk about her perhaps leaving in a year, Peter.
And what about Climate 200 and all these campaigners they've got from the left, from the Greens and from Labor? This is a wolf in sheep's clothing, this stuff coming out.
Well, one of their candidates, Nicolette Bowl, has had some trouble in Bradfield. Used to be a spokesperson for the Australian Conservation Foundation. So I think, you know, there are occasions when they're painting themselves as moderate liberals, but there are people in that movement who are more from the Labor Green side of things. There are probably a few genuine people who came from that moderate faction, but there's certainly instances of them coming from the left side of politics, and I'm not sure all the voters in those seats are aware of how many connections there are.
All right, well, I know you want to settle in and watch every bit of the show that's about to unfold. Thanks for joining me, Andrew Clennell.